A reading from the first letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians. Brothers and sisters, as a body is one, though it has many parts, and all the parts of the body, though many are one body, so also Christ. For in one Spirit we were all baptized into one body, whether Jews or Greeks, slaves or free persons, and we were all given to drink of one Spirit. Now the body is not a single part, but many. You are Christ's body, and individually parts of it. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
My good friends, Chris and Jordan's Story, were married in October of my first year here in the studium. And a few months after that, we celebrated the fact that Jordan was pregnant with their first child, Maddox. A few months after that, as the pregnancy went along, as they waited and prepared, they went to their meetings with the doctor, and they had their ultrasound meetings. So while Maddox was in the womb, doctors found that he had a condition called hypoplastic left heart syndrome. Basically, the left side of his heart, which pumps to the body, was underdeveloped, was not fully developed, and that was the problem with that. Approximately a week after Maddox was born, this past August, the surgeon performed the first of 3 operations to reroute the plumbing of his heart, setting the stage for subsequent surgeries for him to get adequate circulation. To make a long story short, the surgeons had developed a way to route blood through his lungs for the right side of his heart to pump blood to his body. So after receiving so much generous care from his parents, doctors, and nurses, Maddox was ready for the second procedure, which happened in November. Now, I saw Chris, Jordan, and Maddox when I was home for Christmas, a couple days after Christmas. And it was amazing for me because I had seen him in August, week 1 of his life, when he was preparing for surgery, and he was on medication that made him very sleepy. And it was amazing for me to see him alert and smiling and active with his parents there, and he had much more energy than I even thought he would, and it was really encouraging for me to be with them and to see that. And I remember back in August, my friend Chris said that when the doctors performed surgery on his heart was the size of a strawberry, which was just amazing, that just to think of the skill and the ability to operate on that small heart and the intricacies of the heart. And I think the human heart is amazing. It's an amazing muscle. It's a steadfast pump and a battery. The heart sustains life. Well, life would be difficult without some of the parts of the body that Paul talks about in the letter to the Corinthians. It would be difficult to live without an eye or without a foot. Life would be impossible without a heart. All the parts of the body are nourished through the blood, which is continually pumped through that consistent muscle. In the body, the heart is central to them all. Whether you have arteries going to the brain or the body, or the veins returning back, the heart is where all that blood goes. The heart is central to the circulatory system. And in the body, you have this reciprocity, this exchange, this component of exchange in the circulatory system. Reciprocity, veins and arteries working in tandem, oxygenated blood from the lungs getting pumped out and returning for the process to start again. This exchange, this upbeat and downbeat, breathing in and breathing out, giving and receiving, is also essential to our Christian lives in the body of Christ as well. This is because we are called to reciprocate, to exchange, to share with one another. We are called to evangelize from person, to witness. How can we lead others to the faith otherwise? When we can receive the gifts that others have to bring, just as we offer ourselves, we are able to enter into relationship. And this encounter allows us to realize that we indeed are many parts in one body. We need one another and are better for the exchange. And we realize that we are not only a body such as in a football team or even a corporation, we are a body of Christ. We are the body of Christ together, and that makes the difference. In this analogy, if the blood that is pumped is grace, Jesus is the source, the heart always ready to offer grace, always loving, consistent, steadfast to sustain the living body that is the church. Indeed, Jesus is the vine, and we are the branches. Now let's take a look back at my friends Chris and Jordan and their baby Maddox. Now I've seen myself the love that they have for their baby, the love of a parent that bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. That love of a parent that is really even hard to describe, the overflowing love that they have for their child Maddox. And it must have been a real act of trust in God to sustain Maddox, giving him to the capable hands of the surgeon in these necessary surgeries. Likewise, in the body of Christ, we too encounter many challenges of life. In fact, by recognizing that we are a body, we encounter challenge and pain even more because we cannot brush each other aside. Knowing that we do to Jesus himself whatever we do to the least is both an opportunity and great responsibility. So the question here for us is not whether we will meet sufferings and obstacles. The question is whether we will do so relying on the heart of Christ, relying on the sacred heart of Jesus. The question is whether we will allow God's love to pulse into our lives and nourish us beat after beat. Jesus offers himself, and he promises to be with us in these moments. A 17th century Jesuit priest, Claude de Colombiere, who was the spiritual director of Margaret Mary Alacoque, knew this love of the heart of Jesus and said, "This heart is still the same, always burning with love for all, always open so as to shower down graces and blessings, always touched by our sorrows, always eager to impart its treasures to us, and to give himself to us, always ready to receive us, to be our refuge, our dwelling place, and our heaven, even in the world."